What's up, guys? Welcome to Value Town, episode 34, I believe. I'm your host, ChanManV, and I'm joined today by Trump, Realz, and our new DreamHack champion, RDU. How's everybody doing today?
Very
Not
good.
doing too bad.
All right.
Yeah,
You guys recovered from DreamHack yet?
Kind of.
mostly. Yesterday I was pretty whacked out, but I think I'm getting back to normal now.
Ah, good
It's
stuff.
been
Good
pretty
stuff.
hard not traveling.
You lucky fool. Nice. Well, guys, what we're gonna do today, we're gonna talk about the new Nox cards, and or Nax cards. I always say Nox, Nax cards, and we're gonna talk about the Priest card too, since we didn't get a chance to, since we didn't have the show last week. So we'll talk about the Priest and the Hunter that was announced today. We'll also be talking about DreamHack just in general, just everybody's feelings on the tournament, and maybe have RDU just talk a little bit about just the whole drama at the end of it. And then we'll go into the Freeze Mage. We'll have RDU walk us through the Freeze Mage, as well as Realz too. Realz is, I'm sure, familiar with the Freeze Mage also. And really talk about what the key cards are, what the key plays are, and things like that. Because in the Freeze Mage, every little play early on actually leads to whether you win a turn early or not. It's kind of cool that way. Then we'll do some Q&A with you guys. No Reddit thread this week, guys, so we're going to be taking questions from the chat. I'm crazy, I know, but we're going to try it. And if it doesn't work, then we might have to do sub-only type of questions. But if you guys are good, we'll continue to do it. Okay, guys, let's talk about the Priest card. Actually, that was announced last week. So let me go over to it real quick. Okay, so Dark Cultist. Give a friendly minion plus 3 health on the death rattle. What do you guys think about this? Trump, I'll start off with you.
I think it's got the potential to be a main. Oh, sorry, that card. Okay,
Yeah.
so priest.
Not the
I was,
Hunter, the Priest one.
I was preparing
Priest
for
one.
Hunter. This
Yeah.
card is absolutely amazing. A 3 mana, 3/4 is just good by itself. The fact that it has Death Rattle, a nice bonus, is even better. Whether or not you can get the bonus is actually a little bit questionable, but I mean, 3 mana, 3/4. Right? I'm really happy that the
Yeah.
priest got hooked up with such a good card.
Rest of you guys, just jump on in whenever, and you don't have to wait for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a good card. It's 3 for a 3/4. It passes the vanilla test with flying colors. It might even be perhaps the first 3/4 for 3. So
Yep.
it's a resilient minion with, still a lot of power. It's either a good card or a great card, depending on whether or not you get good use out of the death rattle. Even if it gets silenced, you're not sad. And even if you literally don't have anything else to get from the death rattle, it's still good. So the only thing that makes it not that amazing is the fact that 3 mana is something where Priest already has some reasonably good options.
Mhm.
Their biggest hole still is at 2 mana. They have no turn 2. Priest doesn't have a turn 2, and this doesn't solve that. But if and when they do have a better turn 2, then cards like this will become even better.
Yeah, agreed. I think turn 2 or even turn 5, because a lot of the classes, including Priest, don't have great turn 5s either, outside of like Azure Drake. So yeah, turn 2, I think everybody was hoping for, didn't quite get it here. Radu, what do you think of this card?
I think this card has the potential to be very good. You can compare it to Unbound Elemental, and it has better base stats, but Unbound scales better with the use of spells. I think this card can be very good if you are playing Arena, and can also be used in some combos for Constructed. I see that card being played like twice instead of Harvest Golem in Constructed Priest decks.
Okay. You guys see that? I mean, I don't
I
want to
mean,
see Harvest Golem.
Let's just say it straight up. You're gonna see 2 of this card in every single priest deck.
That's
It's that
what that's
good.
what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Even in like a Maz's Priest, like he already has what, Injured Blade Master, Earthen Ring Farseer to combo with the Akanai. And I mean that's already 4 right there. You're gonna see this one too, Trump?
You'll probably replace the Earthen with it. You might even be able to replace this Injured Blade Master Circle combo and be less reliant on the combo of the circles.
That
I
would be
don't
a
think
good idea.
circles are leaving the deck though. So it if you want to, you can think of the circle as being enabled by either of those two, and you're removing one of the enablers if you take out injured Blade Master. One of the big plays that Priest needs in order to do something that's better than what other classes are doing. So I'm not sure if injured Blade Master is going anywhere, because Circle's definitely not leaving. But you don't need Earthen Ring Farseer. So Dark Cultist is just a really, really powerful drop that you can play.
For what it's worth, I
a
think
lot
that's
better
Circle.
on turn 3.
I think Circle can leave. I think you could have like a second priest deck. Like right now, the only one is the one with the circles and stuff because there's not too much to work with. But given this card and some other next cards, I think it's possible that there's like another priest deck without the circle.
Well, it's also possible that priest decks honestly might fall off even more come Nax if mid-range decks that rely on egg become a real thing. Because if your best plays, if your best way to win with priest is things like Akanai Circle right now, or Holy Novaing your opponent's board or whatever, those all run afoul of Nerubian Egg. And turn, you play your removal spell and your opponent still gets a 4/4 with no damage on it. That's not exciting.
It's that magic 4 damage kryptonite for Priest too, that death rattle. So that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think we'll have to see how it plays out. Let's move on to the new Hunter card. Exciting that it's like every Thursday they announce a new card, so it's like really perfect timing for the Valley Town. All right, Web Spinner. It's a 1 mana card, and the death rattle is draw a random beast card. So not a random beast card from your deck, guys. A random beast card, period. So we'll go backwards. Roddy, what do you think of this?
I think this card is a better version of Loot Hoarder or Novice Engineer, like Trump said before the show. It's decent, I think. If it can get other quests than itself, that would make it a little bit better. I see this played in Arena a lot, again, like most of the next cards. But it also has constructed potential, because you don't have to run beasts to be able to get beasts. So that's also good. I don't know. We should see more play of it, and then we can decide if it's good or not.
All right, Reels?
In a beast synergy focused deck, I could see it being okay, maybe, if you want to think of it as like a 1 mana loot hoarder, sort of. Something that could have some kind of impact on the board, or force your opponent to use 2 mana to soak their hero power into it, or something like that, and then you still get a card. So tempo-wise, it could be okay. You can think of it that way. But there are 25, and if it can get itself, right now, 26 beasts that it's capable of getting. And you might just end up basically paying like 2 mana to play Angry Chicken twice. Because you'll play it, and then you'll actually get Angry Chicken, and then play an Angry Chicken. There's a lot of not good beast options to get, and there are some really great ones too. But you can get Timberwolf, you can get Tundra Rhino, you can get Starving Buzzard, you can get King Crush, you can get Savannah Highmane, and I imagine it's going to be an equal chance for all of these. Maybe you'll get an Iron Beak Owl, and you really needed a silence. Maybe you'll get a Captain's Parrot, and you won't have any pirates in your deck. Silverback Patriarch hitting the play on the constructed tables. Courtesy of this new Hunter card, that could be a real thing that we'll end up seeing if people start trying it.
That was the motivation behind it, Reels, is to get Silverback.
What if your opponent's playing Murlocs and you get a Hungry Crab?
That'd
Trump?
be sweet. Trump.
Get that Hungry Crab?
All right, what do you think of it, Trump?
I feel like it's a 100% include in any beast synergy decks, and I think that this might just... I see you shaking your head, but it's such a better loot hoarder. It's like, if loot hoarder won 1 mana, it would be super OP. And I understand, like, sometimes you get your Angry Chicken, but a lot of the times you get something good. And, if you're running a beast synergy deck, if you get the Angry Chicken, it's not the end of the world either. You put Houndmaster on it, and you live the chicken dream. You get your enraged 3 health chicken, and life is good.
I don't think it's very good.
I think it's awesome in a beast synergy deck. Might see some movement towards that. Even just standalone, it could be all right. I will say, for those who just seeing this image as is, I believe that it's not formatted very well, the text, and I feel like it could change. Ben Brode did confirm on his Twitter that it is get a copy of any beast card, even ones that you don't own, from your deck.
So it
And
does.
I
Not
feel like
from
that
your
needs to
deck,
be
though.
clarified in
Not
some
from your
way.
deck.
Yeah, so it adds a card to your deck, which we don't have that many.
It just adds it
Cards like
directly
that.
to your hand, like you, Sarah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it's an
I feel
addition.
like
It's
the
plus
template
30
here
though.
should be different.
It's 30 plus.
If it went from your deck, I think it would be a lot better. To say that it's a one mana loot hoarder is a way to sort of understand the card, but it's also not really true because loot hoarder, when you're playing constructed, you're playing the best 30 cards that you think you can. And when you play loot hoarder, you're trying to draw into among those best remaining 28 cards that you have, or not in your hand, in your deck. Um, as where this is going to get a lot of things that you probably honestly didn't ever want in the
No
first.
yeah, no synergy with the rest of your.
Well,
your
no,
deck.
you'll have synergy because, like Trump said, if you're playing a beast synergy deck, this at least becomes possible as something that might be good. But it'll never get played in anything else other than a beast synergy deck because simply getting a random beast just isn't good enough. It's not doing what Loot Hoarder does. Loot Hoarder gets specifically the cards in your deck that are good with your deck, and that's only going to be true in a beast synergy deck. Really, just getting a random beast, unless you get really lucky and you know get a Stampeding Kodo
Yeah.
or something when your opponent has small stuff.
Let's talk about what the impact will be in arena, Trump, and you being our arena expert.
Okay. In Arena, this is a top pick. Like, Loot Hoarder is a pretty good pick. This card's even better, since in Arena, you are faced with a bunch of average cards, and Web Spinner is going to draw an average card. 1 mana, 1/1, draw a card is amazing. That's it.
All right, so
Is it much better than Novice Engineer?
Oh, it's way better. Like, you can play it on turn 1, and like that's why I think it's good and constructed. Also, there's not too many good turn 1 plays. You play Tracking, you play Flare to cycle, you play your Web Spinner, and like whenever you have 1 spare mana, you play your Web Spinner. It's good for your later control decks also, or mid-range decks. I think it's got potential. Although I am
I think
blinded
that's
by
got
any card
potential.
that says draw a card on it.
Yeah.
it's value, man. The mayor of Value Town, of course, is going to side with value here, but yeah, really, really excited to see at least some changes, at least to Hunter. So that's going to conclude all the classes for Nax, at least the class-specific new cards.
So what does that mean? Can we start speculating on release then?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the options are either they'll continue releasing maybe a few cards each week, for a few more weeks until they announce all the cards, or they're just saving the big batch, I guess half of the cards for the big release, which could happen in a week or 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think probably the cards that we know right now, at least from the neutral cards. I'm not sure how they'll do the class cards in terms of how you earn them, but probably the neutral cards, that represents the first wing, the spider wing,
Yeah.
or whatever that they said would be the first one up, the free wing. And I think we'll get the other ones revealed either just before or not until the actual next wing is released.
Yeah. So when do you think this free wing's going to come out?
Can
Any
we
guesses?
can we hope that it's next week?
Well, absolutely. We can hope it's next week. I mean, we're allowed to hope.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance. I've always thought that it was going to be end of June, and next week would put it in that time frame. Trump, what do you think? You think you'd be leaning towards that if you're a betting man?
Does anyone know how many cards they said would be in next? I forgot.
I think it's something like
30.
30.
There should be 30
30.
total, I believe.
30, so we've got 14, 9 class cards and 5 neutrals.
Yeah.
So that's only half the set, kind of spoilered. I don't think it's going to be next week. I vaguely remember something about them aiming for summer, and summer's end is in a month and a half, I believe. So I'm going to bet on roughly a month.
Okay. Rowdy, what's your guess?
There was a lot of speculation, I remember, on the internets that said that it would be maybe tomorrow, although
Tomorrow?
That's almost certainly not going to happen. But the
Wow.
reason why was because all of the class card reveals, it was going to end. The last class reveal was going to be today, obviously, and tomorrow is the anniversary of the release of the original Naxxramas
Oh, wow.
World of Warcraft. So people
Oh.
speculated that they would try to line it up with
Oh, that would have
the
been cool.
anniversary of the original Naxxramas release, and that the schedule for previewing the class cards lined up with that, and that it made sense.
Oh, that would have been cool
That would have been
timing.
really cool.
Yeah.
Although sitting where we're at right now, I sincerely doubt they're going to
No, I doubt it too. I think I would have heard something
put it down
about it
tomorrow.
if they were going to do it tomorrow. But I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we're speaking about Blizzard, so it would probably take more than 1 day, like from now. I think like 2 weeks or something like that.
You
Maybe
never
if we are
know.
lucky.
The Hearthstone team surprises us. You know, the Hearthstone team just kind of, hey guys, Hearthstone is launched all of a sudden. And it's like, wow, all right, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So you never know. You never know with the Hearthstone team. They seem to be a little bit different. Seem operating kind of more as a little startup within Blizzard.
I don't think
All
they
of this
dropped
talk
service.
has just reminded me of something, though. Since it's released in week-long periods, and like Real said, there's going to be Spider Wing first. This is the card you're going to see in the first week. You're going to see the Web Spinner. You're going to see the Nerubian Egg.
Yep.
You're not going to see certain cards, but you're going to see this one. So
Yep.
hunters get a slight boost first week of Nax.
Oh
Wow,
yeah,
I don't know if it's that much of a boost. I think that it will be good in arena, like you said, though. And I don't know how good it'll be in constructed though yet.
I
We'll
just
see.
want to get a King Crush since I'll never put it in my actual hunter deck. If they can make me put one in there, that'd be nice. That'd be pretty cool. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about BlizzCon. So three of us were actually there, but I'm really curious just to get Trump's first thoughts, just given that he was at home watching it and what the experience was like. Given that it was on Via Game, there was no chat there.
You said BlizzCon, but I think you meant
I'm not BlizzCon.
Yeah,
Sorry, DreamHack.
DreamHack,
I
not
said
BlizzCon.
Oh, thinking BlizzCon. DreamHack. Sorry, guys. DreamHack. So Trump, how was it at home? Like, what was the experience like?
Let's see. I thought it got a lot better at the end. On the first day, I was watching, and then there would be all these delays, and like one game would finish, then there would be 10 minutes, and then that would turn to 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes. I'm not sure how it looked over from your side, but I know that everyone was getting pretty antsy. On the second day and on the third day, though, they did a really good job of inserting some excellent interviews with Rachel in between games, and there was barely any downtime. So that was really good. The show was good, and there was some good high-level play, and I thought the casting team was excellent.
What'd you think about the no chat?
Oh, no chat sucked. And because of that, I actually kind of started... I know Reynad's stream had a bit of a chat unofficial following, and then I started to also just get a bit of hype for DreamHack and started my stream just watching it and then allowing the opportunity for people to chat in there.
No, that's really, really awesome. That was still going on even with no chat, because I know that was definitely a challenge. But to your point, like your comments there, yeah, the production team made quite a few edits towards the end of day one, just with the breaks in between, because a lot of people I know were not happy. They were tweeting me a lot actually during all that, and so definitely cut down on those. We had to actually make those interstitials for day 2 and day 3 during day 1. So that's why we didn't have those going into it. Of was like interviewing a lot of people on day 1. So I think day 2 went really smooth. Day 3 there were some kind of bumpiness when we went to the Dream Arena. When we switched venues, and Realz, you probably kind of saw a little bit too, because you were casting with us and you probably ran. Well, actually no, you were playing in the semifinals, so you had to move over there too, like with everybody. And we were still at the booth basically casting it from there. So production team had to kind of relay to each other, so that was a little bit of a bumpiness there. But overall, yeah, I think at least at the event, I felt like it was pretty good. Realz, what do you think of the whole event as a whole? We'll talk about specifics, but just kind of get your general feel for it.
I definitely had a lot of fun while I was there. I think that they could have made space to sort of have on the first
Yes.
the first day or two there were a lot of series that were not streamed, and I don't think the event was so large that they needed to not stream them.
Yeah.
I think that there may have been some kind of, I don't remember with any great certainty, but I think I heard some whisper of something that they had some kind of technical issue that kept them from using both stations to stream, and that was their original intention. I don't know if that's true or not. Regardless, the event overall was really, really good. I really enjoyed the casting whenever I wasn't playing and I was able to watch and be a spectator.
Oh, you were good too when you were part of it. When
Yeah,
we put
yeah.
players
Well,
in
and
Realz
it was fun. There was a couple games that I got to go, be up there with you guys too, and that was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys up there for that. And I thought a lot of the games were really good. I thought it was interesting seeing people would bring in terms of decks that they thought would be good for that tournament's metagame.
Yeah.
The tournament scene and the tournament metagame in any given tournament is going to be different from another and very much unlike the latter, which is something I actually think is really cool because you get to see constructed that is, still influenced by what the most popular things are out there, but isn't necessarily dominated by them. And you see people finding interesting solutions to, to the metagame and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. I enjoyed hanging out with the other players. There were obviously, a couple notable hiccups here and there, but nothing that ruined it for me, and hopefully didn't ruin it for anyone who was watching it at home. And by and large, I thought it was a really cool event, the way they did it, and it was definitely a fun one to be a part of.
Rowdy, what did you think of it? I mean, you're our champion, so kind of want to get your thoughts on just generally the whole thing.
Yeah, accepting the final controversy, I think the DreamHack was very good, but we will get a touch on that later. So yeah, as Realz said, they didn't stream all the games.
Yeah.
My game versus Realz, I think it was one of the most epic games at DreamHack, where we literally played until we both deck out, or at least me, I can remember well. And Realz ended up winning the handlock versus mage game, where
that would've been great.
Yeah, I remained like 2 or 3 turns at 1 HP. Then I Alexstrased myself, and yeah, it was the best
that
game.
sounds
I think.
exciting, man.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah, just to clarify for folks, Realz, I think both of his games weren't shown, or his series weren't shown on the first day, so that was a real bummer. And I think that's why we made the adjustment the second day to show all the matches, which kind of bit us in the ass too, because we were exhausted by the end of the day because we cast so many games on the second day. But we should, I think, in the future, cast all the group games, just in future tournaments and stuff. I think that's smart. So hopefully we won't be able to miss some of those games, in future tournaments. Overall, for me, yeah, same thing. I thought the panel was a really good idea. I think Artosis and Admirable just killed it. I think it's probably the best casting we've seen to date, at just in Hearthstone period, and really shows what casting can be like for Hearthstone and should be like for Hearthstone. So they killed it. They did an awesome job. So I think overall the production was quite good. Little hiccups again, like you said, some camera issues and stuff in the beginning, but that's just how it is. I think there's a saying in DreamHack that the first day of DreamHack sometimes is like rehearsal to some degree. But we fixed those things day 2 and day 3, and it went pretty well. Let's talk about the deck. Let's talk about a little bit of the metagame first. Druids seem to be the class of the event. I think 10 players played Druid, at least in the group stages. And then I think a lot of expectation was Miracle, but I think only 8 people played Miracle or 7 people played Miracle. So Druids, different types of Druids seem to dominate. Would you guys say the same thing?
Yes.
Radu, why don't you start off?
Yes, I think I'm the only player that didn't play Druid in the top 8 because I really don't like the class, because you can draw like Wild Growth on turn 5 or 6 and it will be a dead card in your hand, but also you can just get a combo at the right time and win against anything. So it's a situational class in my opinion, but it's very good. But I prefer playing Shaman Freeze Mage instead of Druid, and obviously Miracle.
Okay.
Shaman is sort of the other safe deck, but it's really sort of secondary to Druid because you don't have access to healing and your burst potential is a little less consistent.
Right.
So that's really why I think everyone going into the event knew that almost everyone would have a druid deck as one of their decks. I think that was it was the safe thing to do because the format was best of 3 and different people had different strategies, but no matter what, if you lose game 1, you have to take into consideration the fact that you're going to have to win 2 games in a row.
Right.
And druid isn't something that gets easily countered. It doesn't get directly countered by almost anything. Its worst matchup is 40%. And so if you ever lose game 1, or if you're trying to just win 2 games, if you want to just be safe and try to win 2 games in a row starting from game 1, druid is a reasonable choice. It could happen. It could work. And a lot of people went into the tournament with that mentality and that sort of that approach.
Well, I mean, there are different types of druids, so having to just, I guess, bucket all druids, I think is not quite right, because we saw some token druids, like Ecop and I think Nims were playing token druids. We saw some ram druids with Gara, and then we saw some more mid-range druids, which I think you were running, right? So were those percentages the same for all those, or which ones are you talking about?
I think it's a little different when you're talking about the ramp druid deck. I think that is a little bit different. And to be quite honest, I also think overall it's quite a bit worse, although it is better in the mirror, the quote-unquote mirror, the druid mirror, against the more standard druid decks. But token druid and the other standard druid decks, I would clump them all into the same sort of category. The ones that are looking to Force of Nature Savage Roar, and that's their game plan. The ramp deck doesn't even play it. It's a little bit different. It has some matchups that are better and some that are worse, but the true middle of the road decks are those more standard ones and the token ones and stuff like that.
Right. What are your all's thoughts on the double Savage Roar versus just one? Because we saw Ecop actually finish twice. I think we saw maybe 1 or 2 other ones where the double Force of Nature Savage Roar were actually possible versus just the single Force of Nature with a double Savage Roar with the Innervate. What are your thoughts on having 2? I'll ask Radu first.
Well, I saw that like from 1 month ago, people preferred playing double the combo because once was not enough and didn't came in the hand in all the games, and people wanted to be sure they will use the combo to end the game. So I think it's really good playing the combo twice. I saw some people just playing like a double Savage Roar and 1 Force of Nature, or even double Force of Nature and only 1 Savage Roar, because they can get Savage Roar as a dead draw, and Force of Nature can always be used like to clear the board or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Druid is in a good spot right now, as Realz said.
I don't really like double combo, and this is just a personal preference. I understand why people want to run 2, and pretty much everything that Ardu said was spot on. That's pretty correct. The reasoning behind it and what you're trying to do with it. I just, every time I play outright double combo, I end up not liking it. I feel like my deck is worse, and maybe I'm wrong and my perception is off, but that's how I feel. So I understand double Force and 1 Roar. I could see myself doing that sometimes, but for the most part, I prefer just playing the single copies of the combo for just Druid. Are we gonna talk about other decks that we saw?
Yeah, we're definitely. But I kind of wanted to get just wanted to get an opinion. Trump, what do you think of that? Because I saw a ton of it. Like, just to be honest, going into the tournament, I saw a ton of double Savage Roar on the ladder, and I thought that was just going to be like commonplace moving forward. But after we saw everybody what they were running, it was pretty clear that it was kind of half and half. Trump, do you like this double Savage or no?
I kind of take Realz' stance. Savage Roar in itself is a weak card unless you can specifically pair it up with Force of Nature or just having a lot of minions, but that's rare. And Force of Nature, like Realz said, is actually a card which doesn't absolutely suck when individually used. So that's why a 2 Force, 1 Savage might work. Like, it's kind of a fine balance. I myself would probably have run a 0 Force, 0 Savage Druid deck just because it beats out the Druid decks which run Savage and Roar in general.
Okay.
As far as Druid being a popular deck in DreamHack, it is a lot of because it's in the best of 3 format, and when you lose, you need to bring a deck which, like, even if you bring the counter to the first deck, the deck that your opponent is going to choose against your deck can't be that good. So, like Real said, I think it's about right that Drew doesn't have a terrible matchup. It also doesn't have a fantastic matchup, though, on the flip
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So, it's just the deck that might fit the format because your opponent can choose any deck he wants to play against your deck.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
solid deck.
So the next popular deck we saw was a rogue, and we actually did see a couple, quote unquote, let's just call it backspace rogues. More aggro rogues that are actually meant to kill Miracle. But those decks didn't end up working out at all during the tournament. I mean, every time they were in ideal situations, they lost, which was really, really surprising. What did you guys think of just the rogue play in general in the tournament? Reels, let's start with you.
I think that in terms of the aggro variant, the backspace rogue, it actually, I think it kind of skewed our perception against
okay.
aggro, because I think aggro decks are actually a lot better than the DreamHack tournament would lead people to believe. There wasn't a lot of Hunter aggro. There was like maybe 1 or 2 Hunter aggro decks the whole tournament, and 1 or 2 mid-range or whatever, like what Reynad was playing, and 1 or 2 of the rogue aggro deck, and that was like the only aggro
The
people
warrior that Reynad broke out in the finals or the semifinals too.
That's true.
That
And
crazy one.
that also lost in what
In a
good matchup.
an optimal scenario too.
So I really think that those decks are actually pretty good, and I think that they're good for ladder. I think that they're good for tournaments in the right circumstance, and I think that some people even made the correct choices and ended up getting punished for it, even though they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Which was in a way unfortunate, because it skews people's perception of their play or their choices or whatever, and makes them think that they made the wrong choice when really they made the right one, and it just didn't work out. Maybe we'll see a more control heavy and mid-range heavy metagame as a result, but
Yeah.
I think aggro is really good in this game still, and I don't know, maybe it'll take a while now though before people really start picking up back into it.
Did you consider bringing it over the Miracle?
I wouldn't have considered bringing the rogue aggro deck specifically over Miracle, but I did take some time considering at least Hunter,
Okay.
because I'm just more familiar with the Miracle deck, and the things that I was trying to do with my 3 decks in the metagame that I thought it would be. Miracle just seems so much better.
Yeah.
Miracle's really good against the more controlling decks, and in discounting Handlock, I guess it's still okay against Handlock, but not great.
Okay.
And so I thought that my group especially was what I originally made my decks for, was going to be very control heavy, and that no one was going to be willing to play aggro, and like maybe one person would be willing to play freeze, which ended up being all pretty true. And so I think that overall my strategy was pretty good, at least for what I was going to see in my group, and that metagame was actually almost the same throughout the whole tournament, with almost no one playing aggro at all.
Yeah. Randu, I mean, your Miracle Rogue was one of your anchor decks, I feel like.
Yep.
Pulling a lot of series out, even just winning 2-0 in some of them. What'd you think of just the choice between Miracle and maybe an aggro?
Well, I think that a lot of people in this tournament wanted to bring the aggro rogue just to be the Miracle Rogue, and they all tried to counter Miracle Rogue, but Miracle Rogue in its worst matchup can still win, like you saw at DreamHack. I could still win in the worst matchup versus Rush Warrior or versus aggro rogue, but with Miracle you don't know when you're gonna to win, when you are going to win. Sorry, because the only game I lost with Miracle was versus Realz' Handlock, which isn't such a bad matchup as the Rush Warrior is. So you just need to play that deck and hope for the miracle, and you can beat anybody. That was the feeling of playing that deck, and I think all the players had to play that deck, but some of them tried to counter and it didn't work out as they expected.
It was, what was funny about watching a lot of the Miracle games is that I saw more Edwin Van Cleve type of wins, more so than Leroy Shadow Step type of wins. And I guess the question is does it play out more like that? Just less of the crazy Leroy combo wins at the highest levels, versus like what we would see at even lower legends and in the rank 1 through 5s where it's just like always the Leroy Shadow Step kind of finishes.
Yeah, because all the people play around Leroy.
Hmm.
At least the good people calculate the maximum damage they can get every turn. But when they are faced with a big Van Cleef or at least a 6/6 Van Cleef that they can't remove very easily, they are just in a bad spot. So even if they play around Leroy, if you just play a big Van Cleef or a 6/6, I think 6/6 is the best value because it can't get big game hunted,
Right.
and they have no answer. You just win on spot. So you don't even need Leroy. And the next turn you just need, for example, if your opponent is at 20 HP, you need Leroy double Shadow Step and something more. But if you play Van Cleef and he doesn't have the answer, you will just need one Leroy and one Shadow Step and something more.
Or you
So
just cold blood and just win in
yeah,
a couple turns.
yeah, I think Van Cleef is kind of overpowered at the moment, a little
Really?
bit.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because for 3 mana the best play I think of is turn 3 Deadly Poison, Coin Van Cleef. It's a 6/6 Van Cleef for literally no waste. You just lose the coin and you use the Deadly Poison and can still use the weapon. So
Yeah.
I think that plays really good, especially in the mirror match. If your opponent doesn't have sap, you just win on spot.
Real thoughts?
I mean, I think the card alone gives the deck a whole nother dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that's really important for the deck sometimes. And it is interesting that that was the circumstance that was coming up repeatedly, really.
Yeah, we saw it a
entering
lot.
back,
We saw it a lot.
where people are, making a middle-sized Van Cleef or sometimes even having to kind of go all in and make a big one, and their opponent just not having the right answer. And sometimes you do win games that way. It's a little bit less consistent. You can't rely on it, but the option is there, and that's what matters. It's, gives you a little bit of extra win percentages that
Yeah.
you wouldn't have otherwise had. It is definitely a really strong card. It's pretty busted actually, but it has its counters at least.
It's
So-
one thing that you see like when you put all the high level, you just top tier players together is that instead of just waiting like you see in a lot of people when they play Miracle that not quite at the highest of levels, you pretty much play what your hand gives you, and a lot of times that your hand gives you a Van Cleef early, and you just go for it. Like you actually just go all in some cases really really early, and that's really the thing that gives you the best chance to win. So it's kind of cool that you see the top people really taking that dive. Trump, actually, any thoughts on just what you saw with Miracle in the tournament?
I have so much to say.
Okay.
First of all, I think one of the unsung heroes in this tournament was actually Reynad. I thought his deck choices going into the top 8 were really strong. He tried to counter Miracle Rogue, and he played against you, RD, right? On
Yep.
the top 4?
In the semis.
Yeah.
I thought his deck choices there were quite inspired, and he played two decks which are theoretically good against Miracle Rogue. Would you agree with that, RDU? Warrior,
No,
Hunter?
I don't think the Rogue is good versus the Rush Warrior.
Right, so
No, he played the Rush
played
Warrior
that-
against you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. He played the two good decks versus my Miracle
Yeah.
Rogue. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that's just an unfortunate outcome from him. I know that you actually had done a lot of preparation going into the tournament, and you've spoken about it on other interviews, and you made like a chart with win percentages
Yeah.
against like every single deck, and I really like that type. Do you have a guess on what your what your worst matchups against Miracle Rogue are, or I guess specifically against Hunter and Aggro Warrior?
So with Miracle Rogue versus Hunter and Aggro Warrior, I think it's like 50-50 with Hunter. So if you know he's playing an Aggro Hunter
which
and you
hunter?
just
Aggro Hunter or
It
like
wasn't Aggro Hunter,
it was
though.
like a Sunshine
Yeah.
Hunter more
you
than
can
anything
beat the
else.
Aggro Hunter quite easily if you just get Farseers and the Fan of Knives. But with Rush Warrior, you can't really know because there are tons of ways of building that deck, and it really depends on his hand. If he has a bad hand and you have a good start with a fast Van Cleef, they usually don't run execute. So if you just make a big Van Cleef, you win most of the times. And also you need Farseer for this matchup. I also saw that some players in this tournament didn't play with Farseer, and that was unexpected because he's really good in the versus the Rush decks.
Yeah, but there weren't a lot of them in the tournament, especially during the group stages and whatnot, there weren't a lot of those aggro or rush decks.
Yeah, there were
In
zero
fact,
zoo decks.
it
And
Yeah,
you know
unfortunately.
I want to go. I want to say, I agree with Trump at least to a certain extent. Um, Reynad did make it to the top four, the same as I did, and I think that his play was really, really strong almost throughout the whole tournament. I think he had one turn, one time, where he didn't have any good options and he let the rope burn down, and he didn't get
yes.
to make the plays that he wanted to make, and that, of course, was a mistake because he didn't get to do the things that he wanted to do. But it's still, it was a game that he probably wasn't going to win anyways.
That had
And
something to do with the iPad too. That was one of the early
exactly.
games, and
Oh, exactly.
yeah, people
And
still getting used to
everyone
it.
had to fight that
True.
possibility.
True.
But that being said, his play was really, really strong. But on the other side of the coin, I was really kind of unimpressed by whatever preparation or lack of preparation uh, Team Tempo Storm had as a whole, or whatever their read on the metagame was. I felt was maybe wrong. I think that the mid-range hunter deck was actually something that ended up being pretty good and ended up being okay. But in the group stage, some of the Tempo Storm players, Reynad included, had basically they had no answer to Miracle Rogue, none in
Yeah.
their whole list of 3 decks.
And Reynad even said that too. He said
Yeah.
that what he chose for groups was actually not a good decision given what everybody else chose.
So
Yeah.
his play was really fantastic, and he made it into the elimination rounds, and sort of doubled back and did a little bit better analysis of what he thought the metagame was actually going to be,
Mhm.
um, and made much better choices going into the top 8, and didn't obviously it's only one game really that it came down to when he played Warrior against Miracle Rogue and technically is a favored matchup and didn't win. Those things happen. Miracle Rogue is still a great deck even against things that counter it, like Radu said. But I think that it is. I kind of agree with Trump. I think that he did really well, and deserves at least some credit for that. If his team had done better preparation, I think they could have done a lot better. I think they were all playing like Ramp Druid against each other or something, and pretending that was like representative of the total metagame. And
Yeah, I mean Gara even added a Emperor's Cobra to it too, which was an interesting addition, which works in a mirror. I mean, I can totally see how it worked in a mirror, but it was definitely an interesting addition for other.
I don't think so, because all the people run Argent Commander, and if you just Argent Commander the Cobra, you get a lot of value.
there's a lot of of
okay.
ways that it doesn't work out well.
Okay.
Even Wrath. And
There's a lot of ways where it doesn't work
there's
out
a lot
well.
of
I
ways.
really,
Okay.
I'll be honest, I didn't like Ramp Druid in the tournament at all, just because the only thing that it really does super well against is maybe Warrior, which there weren't any, and the pseudo mirror against other druids, which there were a lot of, but that was really the only good matchup, and it's so much worse against other things that it just wasn't worth it. So I think that their read on the metagame going into the group stage was not very good. Reynad squeaked by, which allowed him to make adjustments, which he did end up doing. But
Yeah, we could change decks between rounds, or from groups to
going
semis,
from
right?
the group into the top 8.
Well, the open bracket could change into groups, and then groups could change into the semis and finals.
I wish we couldn't make changes.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I think it would have benefited me if people couldn't have made any changes, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I understand why they wanted to have that option, because they wanted to make sure that it was a level playing field.
Yeah, it was fair. It was just the fairest thing to do.
I wanted it to be a playing field skewed in my favor because I prepared beforehand better. But,
That's true.
you can't win them all. So
You were one of the few people that played Handlock. So let's talk about that decision to play Handlock, why you chose it, and just why we didn't see it as many of it in the tournament.
I going into it, I was worried that some people might pick up on the fact that it was going to be good in that metagame and end up playing it more. And I still chose to play it, even though my best deck against Handlock, if other people were playing it, would have been Handlock.
Right.
So I still decided to play it anyways because I thought people wouldn't run it, and I ended up being right. I thought a couple more people might end up playing Warrior, but there really weren't very many.
No, there was, besides Kit Kats.
But
maybe.
I
Handlock's
played Warrior
not-
in the first day too.
Oh, okay.
Handlock's not insane against um, double combo druid and stuff. But it's still favored, and it's favored against warrior, which there were two of in my group.
Mm-hmm.
I just never needed to run into them. It does well against miracle. It still beats standard aggro and has a chance against the face aggro, although it's not a good matchup. And I didn't think very many people would play the rogue aggro deck either, which I also didn't want to run into. So
Yeah.
basically, just there weren't going to be a lot of things that countered it. I didn't think in the tournament,
Yeah.
and I was pretty much right, and I think it was a good choice. So
Yeah, I think it was a good choice too. You ran into some rough draws
it's
at the end.
it's really interesting because
Yeah.
in the group stage, I thought not many people would play freeze mage. That was the other deck I was considering instead of handlock,
Mm-hmm.
and like Radu did play it, and um,
I lost.
and I didn't. I ended up playing the handlock, and I played him in the group stage, and he won. He won the game one mind game against me. I thought that he would play
Rogue.
Circle or Warrior or something like that based on what the decks that I had, but he made the right choice to lead with Freeze Mage, and I played Handlock, and I ended up winning the unfavorable matchup. It was an interesting game. He didn't have draw cards early, and so I was able to force him to use burn spells as removal,
Yeah.
and I ended up fatiguing him out with Handlock against Freeze Mage. It was
That's
a
crazy.
really interesting game, and if his draw was a little better,
Yeah.
he might have been able to get there, but I had a pretty good hand, and it was an interesting match. So
Fatigued him out?
he won the mind game and lost,
Yeah.
and then in like two other series, he led with Freeze Mage into Druid. He lost the game one mind game, but then ended up winning anyways.
It was a
So-
weird tournament in that regard. I mean, lots of lots of the favorable matchups just
Yeah.
didn't work out.
It's definitely a don't give up, never give
Yeah,
up, never
absolutely.
surrender message,
Absolutely.
because
Uh,
you want to be, good at what you play and just be willing to play it, and don't give up even if the
Mm-hmm.
odds are against you. So
Yep. Speaking of Freeze Mage, Radu, I mean, obviously Freeze Mage, you ended up having a lot of success. You won the finals pretty much with just Freeze Mage. Talk about why that deck is so good, especially with the Vaporize. You have the little mods from Otter's a deck, which was Vaporize. And I actually tried Vaporize a little bit, tried Antonize a little bit. So I actually tried some of those tweaks too. And I really liked Vaporize too, but I kind of want to get your opinion on it all.
Well, Vaporize was there only because of Leroy,
Right.
and it wasn't my choice. I took the deck from an ex-1 called Ivan89. I said that already in
Yep.
most of the interviews, so
Mhm.
that is not my deck. Yeah, I think that Freeze Mage was really good in that meta. It had problems with Druid and Priest, and it had an impossible matchup with Warrior if Warrior played good. And but I knew that nobody will play Warrior at DreamHack.
Except for
Because
Kit
it
Kats,
was-
of course.
Yeah, it was obviously a bad class, and I played it only because it just destroys rush decks. That was my only reason for playing Warrior. And Freeze Mage was actually very good versus Miracle. I think it's the worst matchup for a Miracle. If you play versus a Freeze Mage and you have a slower starting hand with more spells than monsters, sorry. And the Freeze Mage has a good starting hand with Stall, and then Alestasas you and has an Ice Block.
Yeah.
He can then kill you because you don't have so many heals. And
Yeah.
also, if you just keep the board empty and don't let the Miracle attack you and play the Vaporize, you just win the game, because if he wants to kill you, he has to use Leroy. And if he Leroys into the Vaporize, he just loses his main source of damage.
yeah, it's definitely a very good matchup from the Freeze perspective. The things that you play Freeze Mage to beat Miracle, to beat Warlock, and to beat Shaman, and that's why you beat it. The things that Freeze loses to are Warrior every single time. Druid is a difficult matchup, and the card Flare.
Yeah.
If they draw Flare,
It's over.
sometimes you just lose, and if they don't draw Flare, you do very well against Hunter. It's the Freeze deck is very good against Hunter, except for the card Flare. So it's definitely a metagame call, and I think he was obviously right to make that choice with the lineup that he chose, and it worked out very, very well, and it is a strong deck. I think he got a little lucky. I think he beat 2 or maybe even 3 Druids with Freeze, which
Yeah.
is super unlikely, but it's a tournament setting, and those types of things can happen. And
Yeah.
it still was a good call for the meta game, even though he
Yeah.
had to break through a very difficult wall of druids
Right.
in
Right.
order to make it work.
I still regret not keeping the warrior on top 8 because the shaman didn't really help me at all. If I had the warrior versus Reynad, I would win the mind games because that was the only reason for him to play warrior, to play a rush warrior to counter miracle. So I knew he would play
Yeah.
rush warrior, and if you play rush warrior, you have to start with it. And if I had a warrior, I would start with my warrior and be 1-0 in the first game probably because control warrior usually beats rush warrior.
Yeah.
And also, I think the warrior was better versus Amaz's priest if he ended up defeating me in not versus his priest and his hunter.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
If you
yeah.
had lost a freeze game.
Yeah,
This is
Right.
crazy. All these mind games you have to go
yeah,
through
yeah.
right before it.
Hearthstone is about mind games,
Exactly.
but the RNG matters more. You can win
Yeah.
the mind games, as Realz said, and still lose the set. That happened a lot at DreamHack. I think all the mind games where I won, I lost the game, and when I lost the mind games, I won the game. It's strange, but it happens.
It all works out the same in the end, though, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evens out at the end, right?
If you lose the ones that you were supposed to win, but then win
Yeah.
the ones you were supposed to lose, then that's balance.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about just kind of elephant in the room, but I don't want to go into it already because you've already talked a lot about it, Radu, in other shows and interviews and just Reddit and whatnot. So I just kind of want to get just how you're feeling about the whole thing now. Like, is it are you feeling good about the whole, like, the event and how, just winning it and not feeling quite as much negativity towards it right now versus obviously the first day?
Yeah, I feel decent right now, but
Mhm.
I think I'm still like a lot of people still hate me for like no reason. I know that I didn't cheat because obviously I couldn't cheat at such a big tournament. I am not that kind of person, and the DreamHack said they will reanalyze the VODs and release a statement about it, about that high mom code that everybody is so dramatized about. And I received like a lot of messages in the second game, and I even told people to stop. I was annoyed by them. I just told them to stop, and I think it was on camera for 1 second, and then they switched to Amaz's point of view, and that wasn't so good because I wanted people to see clearly that I want them to stop telling me messages
Hmm.
or anything at all, so I could concentrate and be able to win that game fair and square. I wish they had made us regame game 2 because I think that if I was able to win that again, I would demonstrate people that I deserve to win.
Okay.
I think I have to win the next DreamHack or something to make people realize that I am a good player and I deserve to win the DreamHack because
That's
they will
stupid.
keep the
Okay,
drama.
that's just stupid. All right, because I'm just saying that people thinking that because you demonstrated you're a good player the entire tournament, even up to that point. So, but Realz, wait, you're about to say something. Sorry.
Well, I want to like. I think the witch hunting is insane. It's ridiculous. I feel bad for Radu about it because he's really the victim in the end. Despite being the DreamHack winner, like, oh, the DreamHack winner, the victim, poor baby. But it's not really fair. Like, he didn't ask for any of that, and
Yeah.
it wasn't really his fault that it happened. It was the circumstance of the way that it was set up and that it was possible. And obviously tournament organizers will take steps to assure that those types of things don't happen in the future.
Yes.
And that's pretty obvious. So we won't have to deal with this again, and this will be really an isolated incident. And I don't think that any of the hate that's thrown out is deserved. But I also don't think that everyone thinks I'm no good or
Yeah,
anything
not
like
everyone.
that.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That's not
the,
true.
The vo- the most vocal people are not. It's not representative
It's the
of
smallest
the
percentage of people.
majority. It really is
Yeah.
a relatively small amount of people who are very vocal, who want to stir up drama, who want to be hateful, and that's just the way the internet works sometimes. And I don't want you to get caught up in that. Obviously, there's a lot of hoopla right now, but it will die down, and you'll get a lot more people shaking your hand and saying congrats and that they really enjoyed your play. Then you'll get people coming up and saying, like, wow, there's the cheater, when that's like undeserved and not true. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well
think you'll
said.
have to deal with that very much, and not for very long. It's a hot topic, but I think it'll die down. And don't try to buy into that. Don't let it
Yeah,
tear you
yeah,
at all. That's not, like I said, that's not representative of the majority of people. So
yeah. I know. I was very lucky at DreamHack though, so people can call me a big locker or
Everybody was
whatever.
lucky
But
at
I didn't
DreamHack.
cheat. Like
any
I did.
any card game
Yeah.
tournament,
Yeah,
you can look at Magic or whatever.
poker, whatever.
You have to run good.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that win are the people who ran good
The right
and
time.
prepared well and played well. And I think that there were precious few moments where you gave yourself a chance to lose where you should have won or anything like that. You didn't have a lot of really large major mistakes or anything like that. A couple weird sequencing or whatever, but everyone did. And you ran well and you prepared well, and you deserve to win as much as anyone else there. So don't let them take that away from you.
Yeah, exactly. Trump, your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, hopefully it's real. So I'm gonna take it one step further. Like RDU did deserve to win one just as much as the other people. RDU deserved to win. Period. He was the one who brought the Freeze Mage deck, which just ended up being such a good call against that specific metagame, and he did his research beforehand. I know that he set up a few situations where some players may not have where you needed to draw out to win the game, but at least you set yourself up in the position. Whereas other players, and the commentators probably would have completely missed it also, would make a play which would give them a 0% chance to win. So, instead of getting 0% chance, RDU set himself up to have a 20 or 25% chance to win, and then he got it. Sometimes that happens. And it's those small things, sometimes unseen, which give people the edge up. So congratulations, RDU. And
Yeah, thank you.
this entire time I've been somewhat silent, and like Realz said, there's so much vocalization of people who just like to stir up drama. And for the last hour, I've been just looking at this chat, which you need to moderate better, ChanManV. And then
I
just
try,
timing out
man.
people.
I add mods every week, and they don't show up every week. So it's I gotta get some more people. So if you guys want to mod my chat, message me.
Yeah, it's a shame that these people are so vocal. I'm glad that other people like Artosis and Amos himself are
Yeah.
just taking such a loud stance when it's usually the haters who are trying to stir it up. We know that it sucks to be in the spotlight for something that you didn't do, and I feel for you. It sucks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just
all
reading
do.
the chat, it makes my heart break a bit because you deserve this. Congratulations on winning. You did the best.
Thank you, but I
Absolutely.
still think that all the 16 players that were there had the exact same chance because we were very close in skill, and I think the RNG made me the winner. That's what I think. I think that we are both almost as good as each other.
I think there are a lot of great players there, and that a lot of people were a threat to win. But
Yeah.
you put yourself in a position to win, and you did. And I don't think you should take that and just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything could have happened.
Absolutely.
For example, Ecop drawing a Cold Light Oracle, he could have won then. Or Reynad, in the game with Reynad, me not drawing the Shadow Step, I would have lost, and Reynad could have possibly have won that. So,
Mhm.
or you versus Amos, he could have just not top decked the 5 damage card, and you would have probably won versus me in the finals because you had better decks than me.
I think I had maybe after I won game 1 against Amaz, and he chose Priest, which I think was the wrong choice, by the way. It worked out, but I think it was the wrong choice.
Yeah.
If he thought that I had Miracle still for my Rogue deck, which he probably knew I did. He basically put his Priest in against 2 really bad matchups.
Yeah. That was
And
crazy.
I had maybe, between the 2 games overall, maybe 60 or 65, and then close to 70% chance to win each individual game, which is close to 90% total chance to win the match from there.
Yeah.
And the 10% beat the 90%. I was pretty salty.
No.
So-
I mean, the handlock, gosh, I remember just watching you
It was brutal.
draw bad card after bad card after bad card, and all you needed was Like one of your giant minions, or even like a Twilight Drake, anything.
The Twilight Drake is the best card, I
Yeah,
think.
anything there, you would have won, and it went on for like 18 turns or 20 turns, and I'm just, wow,
Yeah.
it's just like brutal.
But if
I
I
I want
had
to speak up there and say that like people are going to call Realz salty for this.
oh,
but
I,
think
I
he's
was salty.
I know
He's admitting it.
but
He's
like
admitting it.
unfairly salty. I think that's an accurate presentation. Like I don't think necessarily they were both 60-70% win rate. You always think you have a higher win rate when you're yourself or the one playing, but I do think they were above 50% to win against the priest. So both of the decks. So it was unfortunate.
Yeah, it turned out the way it
It's-
did. I think
yeah.
if I had been in the finals, Radu, I don't think you would have been unfavored. I think maybe you would have been favored in the finals with our deck lineups.
It depends.
Um,
It depended on the mind games. I mean, if I started Freeze Mage and you started Handlock, then I would have a bigger chance. But if you started Druid versus my Mage, it all depends on the mind games, I think.
See, but the thing is that you had Shaman instead of Druid, and that
Instead
means
of-
that you're better against my Druid in that matchup, and Shaman is better against Handlock.
Yeah, but still,
Druid
you had
is,
Miracle, so
so-
with Miracle, you could have won like 3 games in a row. Amos
But-
didn't have Miracle.
But you also have Miracle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you had an advantage over Amos because you had Miracle and he didn't. So that's why I said you would have probably beaten me. I don't know.
I think your lineup was at least 50-50 against mine, at least, if not slightly favored. So we'll never know. You ended up
Yeah.
winning anyways.
He
So
goes, no, you would have won. No, you would have won, man. You guys are so nice to each other. Okay, well, why don't we? Well, we spent a lot of time on that. Why don't we take a really quick break and then we'll come back and we'll talk Freeze Mage real quick and take a few questions and we'll wrap things up. Be right back, guys.
how long do I have?